So let's talk about last night. We Memphis finally got a win, which is something that neither of us thought would happen. They shot 11 for 18 from three as a team that was shooting 30% from beyond the arc coming in. So, Jeffrey, did they figure out their shooting problems, or was this just a thing where they kind of got hot on the right night?
I like the way they moved the ball. You know, I did a podcast last night with Antonio Anderson and former Memphis star, and we talked about that they were playing unselfish. That was, to me, when I was watching them, I was like, all right, this isn't AAU ball. They're not shot hunting. Like normally those guys, a lot of them are shot hunting, whether it's Landers Nolly, DeAndre Williams, DJ Jeffries, Boogie Ellis. They weren't doing that. They were like spreading the wealth and just moving the basketball and getting uncontested, easy looks and making them. Now, half the battle is getting them. The other half is making them. They were doing both of that last night.
Yeah, I think it really was just kind of that simple. It will be interesting to see how this continues. You know, it's very easy to be unselfish when shots are going down and everybody's making stuff and everyone's getting going. The big question is what happens when they're not shooting 11 for 18 from three? What happens when it's not going as well offensively? Are they going to revert back to what they were for the last basically entire season? So I think it's a promising start and a promising sign, especially if Memphis wants to get back into the NCAA tournament. Like I think they probably have to win out at this point to really have a chance at net large. I don't even know if that's possible.
They're not going to win out. We know that. Let's not even talk like crazy here. Okay, let's just talk about getting momentum and being relevant again and building on this year, like for next year. Because if they bring back everybody, like Musa Cisse looked good in the second half. He was awful in the first half, and he looked really good the first part of the second half. And maybe he's got to come back, you know, like, so if you get everybody back and you have a veteran-laden team that has talent, like you might have a chance next year. That's what you're playing for to me, is like next year being a year where you can actually do something that's not just about expectations that you're not living up to, but it's realistic because you've got a team that played together, that grew together, that lost together, that now is going to be able to win together.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that we could be saying that about too, by the way. We could be saying that about Kentucky. We could be saying that about Duke. There are a lot of teams that need to start planning for their future a little bit based off of who is coming back to school. All right. We probably buried the lead on this one.
You think?
Considering that
we started with Memphis. What was wrong with you? Like, really?
Well, it was the first game that showed up. So I'm looking at a schedule, right? And that game tipped off at 7 p.m. So it was the first game that popped up on my list.
This was bad hosting by your
part. No, it's not. It's great. It's great hosting. Because the people that are listening
for tomorrow.
Oh, so yeah. You already. I won't make that joke here. I won't make that joke.
I know where you were going.
Yeah.
I know where you were going.
All right. So Indiana went into Iowa.
Yep.
Is it Cedar Rapids? Is it the one? I don't even know. Iowa City. I think it's Iowa City. They went into Iowa City. They went into Iowa City.
I've been there, and I don't
off the Hawkeyes. They beat the brakes off the Hawkeyes. They were, I think, Iowa was up 53-44 at one point in the second half, and Indiana went on a 25-3 run. Ended up winning by 12. Jeff, is this the start of the Fran fade?
No, it's not the start of the Fan fade. Come on.
The fan frayed?
Fan frayed. No, it is not the start. This is what Iowa can be on their worst night, right? Like a team that can't guard, that an Indiana team that can't score generally puts 80 up on you. And, oh, by the way, you can't outscore them, which on a lot of nights, even if Iowa gives up 81, okay, go ahead, give up 81. We're going to score 85. We're still going to win the game. But not when you shoot 5 for 23 from three, and not when Jordan Bohannon reverts to the early season Jordan Bohannon, right? Like, he's been great over the last 3-4 weeks. He was not good last night. Neither was the whole team other than Luka Garza. Now, as we talked about going into the game, that Luka Garza, Trace Jackson Davis, it was a draw for the most part. And, like, that's a huge win if you're Indiana. If you can get a draw out of that, that's a huge win. But even going in, you're saying, like, all right, where else is Indiana going to win the battle? Right? Well, they won the battle just by the simple fact that Iowa could not make shots, period, and does not guard.
Yeah, I mean the big problem was that Iowa shot 5 for 23 from beyond the arc. Jordan Bohanna was completely ineffective, and C.J. Frederick was hurt. And once that happens, and you start having to rely on Connor McCaffrey as a floor spacer, and you're asking guys like as much as I love Keegan Murray and as interesting as Patrick McCaffrey can be, when those guys are being asked to like play significant roles at the same time that they're on the floor with Luka Garza. It kind of forces you to play that 2-3 zone,
I would have played Murray more. I would have played Murray a lot more than they put. I would have force fed him 30 minutes last night.
They should honestly be force feeding him 30 minutes every single game,
every night. His upside is really high. He gives them something that they don't have. To me, again, like Connor McCaffrey, I get what he gives you in terms of toughness.
There it is.
There it is.
That's probably Fran McCaffrey texting you and saying, "Stop talking shit about my son."
No, what he's saying is, "Don't talk about my Freight."
Yeah, the fan Freight. There he is again. I mean, look, that this is what Iowa is, right? Like this is why it's very difficult to back them to win a national title. You can back them to win the Big Ten because you can have bad losses in the Big Ten and still make it up. This is why it's very hard to back them to win the national title.
Listen, we're not saying I don't think anybody thinks they're going to win 6 straight. I don't know anybody who is a believer that Iowa can win 6 straight. But can they win 4 straight, Rob? Can they get to the Final Four? And then it's like, all right, like anything can happen, especially in this year.
Here's the thing. It's basically – so they're probably going to end up being like a 1 or a 2 seed, right? Depending on how the rest of the season plays out. So if they're a 2 seed in the first round, they get they're going to play some terrible 15. So whatever. So that's kind of a write-off. Right. And so it's basically they have to win. Yeah, they have to win 3 games against quality competition. Someone like an Indiana. Yeah. Then they have to get someone like Illinois, and they're going to have to get another elite team to make it to the Final Four. And I don't know if they can do that because I don't know if they can beat another elite team. Like that's my big concern with them is that there's going to be games like this where they don't show up and they don't make shots. If they're not making shots, they can't win another way. Like that's why I think someone like a Gonzaga or someone like a Baylor, or to a point like a Villanova and a Michigan, they can win different ways, right? Like Baylor can win their defense.
It's hard to win if your defense isn't very good. Like it's one thing. It doesn't have to be great, elite level. But it's got to be good enough to where if you have a night like this offensively, you can still grind it out. And Iowa they don't have that. They don't. That's where they're limited, and that's where you're right. Like I'm probably not going to pick them to go to the Final Four because of that. Because one of these nights they're going to go 3 for 20 from 3, and unless Lucas scores 40, they're going to lose.
Yeah, and I think there are situations where like you don't mind if Lucas scores 40. If Lucas scores 40 and you let him go one-on-one of the post every single time, and don't let Iowa get any open looks from 3, like you're fine with it. He had 28 last night, and they lost by 12 at home.
But again, 28, right? You had Trace, so you didn't have to double him. That's the key. If you've got another big where you don't have to constantly bring help, that's huge. The
thing is, there's no big guy in the country that can stop Luka one-on-one.
No, agreed.
There are big guys that can make him work, and that's really what you need. Yeah,
that's all you need. That's all. Yep. Exactly. Nobody's going to be able to neutralize him completely. But again, 28 is fine if you're not giving guys open threes, and they got some and missed some, but they're also more contested threes. I thought last night than Iowa usually gets.